of coral reefs in India. The protection of coral reef has been stressed under Wildlife Protection Act, 1972 and Environmental Protection Act, 1986 and Coastal Regulation Zone CRZ. Corals are included in Schedule I of the Wildlife Protection Act, 1972. Integrated Coastal and Marine Area Management (ICMAM) also takes up the issue of coral reef habitat destruction and the recommendations of the National Committee on Mangroves and Coral Reefs. Following coral reef areas in the country have been identified for intensive conservation and management since 1987: Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep Islands, Gulf of Kutch, Gujarat, Gulf of Mannar, Tamil Nadu. The Coral Bleaching Alert System (CBAS) has been initiated by INCOIs since 2011. This model uses the satellite-derived sea surface temperature (SFT) in order to assess the thermal stress accumulated in the coral environs. This information yields in drawing the early signs of the intensity and spatial extents of coral bleaching. Recommendations of Task Force on Islands, Coral Reefs, Mangroves and Wetlands. 11th Five-Year Plan 2007 to 2012 initiatives on conservation, development and poverty reduction in coastal areas need to be more effectively integrated. Development of sustainable alternative livelihoods and viable options for coastal populations to reduce the pressure on reef resources. Management of coral reef areas should be improved by increasing the efficiency and use of funding. Increased enforcement of existing laws such as those relating to coral mining, while ensuring that populations are not deprived of livelihood options. Research into current conservation status of food fishes, lobsters, sea cucumbers, ornamental fishes and other reef-associated biota-appropriate regulation mechanisms to ensure that fisheries are sustainable, possibly, though, introduction of licenses and certification schemes. Develop mechanisms for managing coral reef information, including monitoring data, and ensure that these are available to coral reef managers and decision makers. Coral reef management should be seen much more as a way of life rather than a series of short-term projects. Based on the recommendations of National Committees on Wetlands, Mangroves and Coral Reefs, 24 wetland, 33 mangrove and 4 coral reef areas in the country have been identified by the Ministry for Conservation and Management. National Coral Reef Research Center has been established at Port Blair. Database network and website on coral reefs has also been established. Steps to be taken. It is important to undertake immediate actions to address climate change under the Paris Agreement's goal of limiting global average temperature increase to 1.5 above pre-industrial temperatures. Measures to combat local stressors causing coral bleaching, regulate tourism, check water pollution by treating industrial effluents before discharging them into the sea. Reduction is use of chemical fertilizers in farms, ban fishing and harvesting of protected species. Regularly service and maintain fishing vessels so that they cause minimum pollution. Regulate construction along the coast, banning of the quarrying of massive corals. Coral restoration programs can play an important role in conserving coral reefs. For example, the innovative Force Blue project is training retired Special Forces soldiers to transplant endangered coral species. A recent paper published in Nature argues that there should be focus on strengthening the reefs to make them immune to pollution, for example, through genetic engineering, and of restoring reefs by targeting more rigidly on corals. Improved scientific knowledge is required to inform an effective response to threats to coral reefs. Community awareness and education programs are required to educate and inform the public, policymakers and other stakeholders of the ecological and socio-economic values of coral reef ecosystems.